everyone.
Hello, hello.
I'm Tony.
And I'm Tally.
And we are the Lazy Book Lovers. This is a podcast for book lovers who procrastinate about reading with never-ending to-be-read piles. Today's episode is all about Hunger Games, because that's having its moment on the platforms. And we're here for it, so we decided to jump on the trend.
Yeah, I've been wanting
instead
to
of
reread.
doing it in 3 months like we usually do.
I've been wanting to reread, but I will be rereading in about 3 months. I might do it as an audio, because that could be like
Audio is the way to go, you know.
And because I've already obviously read them a few times, it could be good in the
I
background.
don't know how many times I've read them. Maybe twice? I think twice.
I've not read the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes yet.
I
Snakes
have.
and Songbirds.
Maybe that's why I read them twice. I reread them before reading
Before
Ballad.
reading,
Yeah, I'm going to say that.
So, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, in case you don't know, but you should do, because it's The Hunger Games. So, yeah, shall I just read the synopses of the first one?
Yeah, do it.
We're a bit all over the place, because it's been a while since we've done, like, one episode devoted to something.
Just one author, one series of books. I don't think we've ever done one series on purpose.
No.
There was the Akatar one, but that was by accident. Because that's what we wanted to talk about. So,
The Hunger Games. This is the first in the Hunger Games trilogy. Followed by Catching Fire, then Mockingjay. Mockingbird. Mockingjay. And then, obviously, the prequel.
A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be a series or not, but...
no. I don't think so.
Just a one-off?
It's becoming a film soon, though.
Yeah, I think that's why it's having a resurgence, because the little bits have been released about it, haven't they?
Looks really good.
In the ruins of a place once known as North America lies the nation of Panam, a shining capital surrounded by 12 outlying districts. The capital is harsh and cruel and keeps the districts in line by forcing them all to send one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 to participate in the annual Hunger Games, a fight to the death on live TV. Katniss is a 16-year-old girl living with her mother and younger sister in the poorest district of Panam, the remains of what used to be the United States. Long ago, the districts waged war on the capital and were defeated. As part of the surrender terms, each district agreed to send one boy and one girl to appear in an annual televised event called the Hunger Games. The terrain, rules and level of audience participation may change, but one thing is constant: kill or be killed. When Katniss's sister is chosen by lottery, Kat steps up to take her place. Without really meaning to, Katniss becomes a contender. But if she is to win, she will have to start making choices that weigh survival against humanity and life against love. In that synopsis, they changed between Katniss and Kat, but I don't actually think she was... I don't
None of the
remember
characters
her
called her
ever
Kat
calling
ever.
Kat. No.
No.
Should just been Katniss for her.
I think he calls her Catnip.
Catnip. Yep. The content warnings from Storygraph for this are death, violence, child death, alcoholism, death of a parent, grief and cannibalism.
Yes, because the films do a good job with the books, but they take out a lot of the horror in them.
Yeah, they have to, I think, for
because it was a 12.
The 12, yeah. So the books then obviously spawns the films. The third book was broken into 2, which usually annoys me with films, but I think it works with this one. I think this was one of the first to do that. And then other films like Harry Potter and Twilight decided to do it unnecessarily.
And the Divergent films, obviously they never made the second half of the last book.
Yeah.
Which I'm still bitter about.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first book was published in 2008.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Right?
That makes me feel a bit old.
I know. When I was looking up some articles about it, and it was like the 10-year anniversary, and I was like, 10 years already? And I was like, in 2018.
Oh my god.
Like,
oh my god. I think, when did I read these? I think this was when I was at uni I read these.
I read them after I watched the first film. That was the first time I read them.
Yeah, I can't remember if I saw film first and then read the books or the other way around. I can't remember. Jingle.
I hadn't heard of them before, and then I watched the first film, and then I picked up the books and I loved them.
I thought the films did a really good job.
I really like the films.
There's lots of little, like, apart from the horror element they had to take out to make it a 12, there's lots of nerdy things that, unless you were a book nerd, it doesn't affect the overall plot that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to do with how Katniss gets her pin, the Mockingjay pin.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. That gets changed for the film. But I also get why they had to change it for the film. So yeah, and like more of Hamish's backstory, that gets missed a lot.
I think the costuming is fabulous in the films.
Very well done. Yeah.
Really good. The first book, I'm assuming you know, there is going to be spoilers in this.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's been out for 15 years. So
yeah. The first book is Katniss in the Hunger Games. The second book is like a special anniversary one that is just made up to basically send Katniss back in.
Yeah, and it's called The Quarter Quell, which is because it's 75 years since the Hunger Games started.
And then there's that clip that's all over TikTok in a minute of, I can't remember her name, but she's like, the deal was if I win the Hunger Games, I don't have to go back in or whatever.
Yeah, it was screw
you guys.
So the Quarter Quell ends up being all former contestants were the pool of people for the lottery, basically. And so all these people that were told, like, you've won the Hunger Games, you're safe now.
For life, you're set up for life. Like, you're fine.
Darling of the capital, that kind of thing. And then, but they're obviously not, because the capital just uses it to punish them further.
Yeah.
To hold the districts sort of in control. That was good English.
No, I knew what you meant.
So when they go back in, obviously all the previous victors are like, I did this. And some of the victors are really old.
Yeah.
Or are feeling the effects of what they've done to cope. So you've got like the morphling ones who have got addicted to morphling, which is like morphine basically.
Yeah, and they've got trauma, and some of them are like mentally unstable from the trauma of it all.
And then they've all been friends for years because they've all had to go to these events over and over and over
be
again.
paraded about, like show ponies,
and then suddenly they're being asked to kill their friends.
Yeah.
And all this kind of stuff. So yeah, the Quarter Quell is quite
fucked up.
Yeah.
And then the third book is the uprising of everything.
Mm-hmm. Because she kind of becomes this reluctant figurehead for the rebellion.
Yeah, she starts in book one. Basically, when she volunteers as tribute, she starts a ball rolling that cannot be stopped.
Yeah.
And she did not intend for it to happen.
No, basically, the end of the Hunger Games, because she's not playing by their rules, they start trying to find ways to force her to force her to kill, to force her to do things that are going to make her stop being seen as like this darling, like star-crossed lover, blah, blah, blah. And so then in the end they say, oh, like, if you're the other person from your district survives, you're going to go home together. So then that makes her go and help Peeta. And then they're like, jokes! Because the whole point is if she then viciously kills him, no one's going to see her as this
Everyone's
sweetheart.
Everyone's going to see her for, like, this, like, what they want to paint her as.
Yeah. Whereas she chooses not to do that in a way that, like, shows the capital up, basically. And then she keeps accidentally showing the capital up from then on. By
just kind of being herself.
Yes. There's a character in the first book who is a really young contestant in the games who Katniss, it kind of reminds Katniss of her little sister, which is the whole reason Katniss goes into the games.
Yeah.
And that character doesn't make it because she's 12. And Katniss sees her family because they have to do a tour of all the districts, including also through the districts of people they've probably killed in the games. And she sees this girl's family and she feels like she has to say sorry, like, because she liked this character.
Yeah.
And that actually kicks off a whole, like, rebellion in that whole sector.
That whole district, yeah.
And she's like, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that.
My bad, guys.
Because the whole time President Snow's threatening her family of, like, squash this rebellion you started by accident, or I'm killing your family. And she's like, I'm trying.
Yeah, like, I'm just saying hello to people. God. Okay, so I did a big deep dive into, oh my god, I just read so much.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, I've had to narrow it down to a small amount. I've even written a script to keep myself on track.
Oh, check you out. I love it when you do, like, proper research.
There was so much I wanted to talk about. I found so many things interesting, but I was like, we will literally be here for years, and I can't do that. So I was looking up just any information that I found interesting for starters, but I specifically wanted to look up where Suzanne Collins got the ideas for it.
Mm.
So I will discuss this, but I came across it when the first film came out, and I watched the trailer for the first film, and I was like, that looks like a shit version of Battle Royale, which I love. I love Battle Royale. But then I decided to give it a try, and then I loved it.
Yeah.
Read the books, etc., etc. So I was curious about, this was when I first discovered Hunger Games, I was curious about whether Battle Royale had been a influence in it. I've always been like curious about where she got all the ideas from. So I went and done a big reread. I reread some articles that I remember reading the first time round.
Yeah.
And I've done myself a little script, and we're going to talk about it.
Go on, tell me.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So, it's written all fancy. Because I just wrote it as if I was writing. I didn't think about writing it as in...
Like how you speak it? Yeah. It's
so
alright.
It's fun. So I had to preface it's a script. So, released in 2008, The Hunger Games and its sequels, then eventual prequel, took the YA literature sphere by storm. Spawning 4 well-received films and a 5th on the way, at its height, The Hunger Games was accused of being a Battle Royale ripoff. Also accused by me. A popular Japanese franchise made up of novels, manga, films and games, in which high school students are forced to fight to the death by the Japanese government as punishment for their immoral behaviour. Have you ever seen Battle Royale?
No, I haven't. But you're not the first person to talk to me about this. And they've said that I would like it.
Yeah. So the original one, I think it was 93 or something it came out, the original book, and then it went from there, baby. And then it went from there. And I really enjoyed the 2 films I've seen. I've only seen 1 and 2. I think there might be some spin-offs, and I was a huge fan of them, so that's why I was like, Hunger Games, whatever. However, Suzanne Collins had never heard of Battle Royale until the parallels had started to be drawn. In fact, whilst writing Catching Fire, she asked her editor if she should check out Battle Royale and was told no. Basically, her editor was like...
Don't worry about that.
Her editor was like, we don't want that to influence you at any point because you've already built your own world. And
it's all accidental up to this point.
The spark that eventually formed into the Hunger Games actually came when Suzanne was channel surfing one night, which really
this is the version I've heard.
Which really took me down a rabbit hole because...
That it's based off reality TV.
Yeah. Flicking through TV channels, what a blast from the past.
Yeah.
As someone who doesn't have TV now.
Yeah, this is the version I've heard.
Flicking between channels, she saw images of a reality TV show mixed with footage of the Iraq War, and the idea took root. Suzanne has always wanted to write about just war theory for young audiences. Her previous series, The Underland Chronicles, which I didn't know she had a series of.
I've got it saved in my Amazon wish list.
It's a middle grade series. Examine the idea of an unjust war developing into a just war because of greed, xenophobia and long-standing hatreds. With her new series, she wanted to approach it from a different angle. So from that, I had to look up what the just war theory was.
Yeah.
Because
never heard of it.
So, in her words from a New York Times interview, just war theory has evolved over thousands of years in an attempt to define what circumstances give you the moral right to wage war and what is acceptable behaviour within that war and its aftermath, the why and the how. It helps differentiate between what's considered a necessary and an unnecessary war. And that theory is something that she's always been interested in, and she's always wanted to write fiction to help younger people sort of form their own ideas.
I can see that because it's probably going to be spoiler-ish me saying this, but I'm going to walk the line of not telling you specifics. In the 3rd book, when President Snow is being held accountable for his actions after the uprising's kind of done its thing, and they're discussing what the consequences for the people of the capital should be, and they're basically at that point discussing another version of the Hunger Games for the capital's kids, and Katniss is just sat there like, no, this is what I've just given everything to stop.
Just stop, yeah.
And she's just like, but people are so hurt that the vote actually goes in favour.
Yeah.
And she's forced to make some quite drastic decisions.
What's the one? Is it who's the leader of the rebellion? What's her name?
Yeah, I know. I can't remember.
But there comes a point.
President.
There comes a point when you realise that
she's
it's
just power
going to be
hungry.
the same. She's just going to step
cycle
into the
starting
role.
again.
Yeah.
Katniss is asked to execute Snow in like a very symbolic, the Mockingjay taking out Snow, and at that point Katniss makes a decision of like, no, we're not doing this. I'm going to break the cycle, even if it kills me.
Yeah, then it's just a cycle.
So I can see that written in there, because there's lots of the rebels' actions pitted against like the morally reprehensible things the Capitol's doing, and the points where the rebels start to cross the line, and that where Katniss is fighting against the leader of the rebels, as well as the Capitol.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
A lot of where they want her to just be this symbolic figurehead. But she's like, no, I don't want to be a figurehead for this.
No.
Like, don't make me be this person.
She never wanted to be a figurehead at any point.
Yeah, and it just gets worse. Like, when they're trying to film, when they call them the propos, the propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
Videos of her, of the Mockingjay going out and saving people. And it's all, they're doing it in a studio, she's covered in makeup. It's all very false.
She just can't act it. She just can't do it, can she?
And then Haymitch is just like, that is how you lose a war.
Yeah.
And she's like, fuck you, Haymitch. And then what they do is they take her out and film her doing Katniss things, like the reason
just
people fell in love with her.
Yeah. What I love about Katniss is at no point does she understand why people rally towards her or like her, or even like her. She's like, I'm not likeable, I'm not approachable, I'm not nice. That's literally her problem in the first film. Haymitch is like, no one likes you.
Yeah, it's like it's Peeta that makes her desirable, likeable. It's Peeta that turns her into the Capitol's darling.
Yeah,
not her.
No, nothing
she does. It's all because of Peeta.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see that, like where she's written that. I thought it's just really clever. And this idea of everyone would watch this reality TV show where people are getting butchered to death and they do bets on it,
like, and
they have their favourites. I don't feel like that's too far outside of, that's not far enough outside of reality.
No, like The Running Man, is that a Stephen King book? It's a film with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, and that's a fight to the death in different arenas and stuff, and people watch it on TV.
Well, that has happened in history as well, like the Roman Colosseums,
which was another influence. So additionally, Suzanne has always been a big mythology fan, and a connection with the Theseus and the Minotaur myth quickly became apparent and was something she wanted to explore further. In the story, King Minos of Crete punishes Athens for the death of her son by demanding a sacrifice of 14 youths, 7 girls and 7 boys, to be brought to the Minotaur. Theseus volunteers as tribute and slays the beast. So, in different reincarnations of that story, because obviously all mythology has different versions of the story. There's versions where they are in arenas instead of,
I think there's other versions where it's like a labyrinth.
Yeah, a labyrinth was the other one, and she liked the idea of the arena, and she also was a huge fan of gladiator films like Spartacus and stuff, so it all just accumulated into the Hunger Games. To help explore the just war theory further, Gale and Peeta were introduced, not to create a team insert boy situation, but to represent the two viewpoints of the theory. Gale, because of his experiences and temperament, tends towards violent remedies, as we were discussing with the thing. And Peeta's natural inclination is towards diplomacy. Katniss isn't deciding on a partner throughout the series. She's figuring out her worldview. That's what I've got written.
It's not a bloody love triangle.
No, can't be a triangle anyway.
At no point is she like, oh, I like Gale. She's just like, oh, well, me and Gale did all these things to survive together.
Yeah.
Everyone just assumed we would end up married one day, and I probably would have had to marry him.
They would have if the games hadn't happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool that because they are so opposing in their ideological views of how the Capitol should be dealt with and stuff.
Well, especially with what happens in the end with the bomb. Yeah. Which is what pushes her one way or the other. Yeah. I think that's what culminates in her decision at the end of like, no, we're not doing this again. Yeah, and it's what Gale and the rebels choose to do to finally, because it ends the war. But she was like, at what cost? Because obviously it cost her a lot. Yeah. without spoilers, it costs her everything.
Well, we did say we'd probably have spoilers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it basically cost her everything.
Yeah.
Everything she fought for, the reason she went into the games, it cost her everything.
My favourite bit about how that's written is the first time I read it, I had to go back because I was like, wait, did that just...
Well, because you don't realise until President Snow points it out to Katniss.
And it's how I imagine a war would be. You don't really realise what's happening.
Well, because she's on the ground when the bomb hits.
Yeah.
She doesn't realise until later, where President Snow's like, why would we bomb our own children?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it turned the tide against us, but why would we bomb our own children?
No. When all this time they have been protecting their children.
Yeah, the whole point of this was...
theory,
Well, the capital's children were protected. It's everyone else's children, all the districts.
Yeah.
It's very clever. It's like a very nuanced book for something that is YA.
Yeah, and I think the last time I read it was, I don't know, maybe like 8 years ago or something. So I would quite like to reread it now. As a mum as well, I wonder if it will hit me differently.
Yeah, through adult eyes, I think it just in general would be quite different.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
They were like the bits I picked out that I could have gone into so much more, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the version that I've heard. It was kind of reality TV games were kind of the inspiration.
Mm-hmm. And Suzanne Collins' dad fought in the Vietnam War. I can't remember if she lost him, but that was the inspiration for Katniss not having a dad around because she didn't have her dad when she was younger, and she knew that it was due to something that was out of even his hands.
Well, just
it was decisions made by other people, kind of.
It's just men and the mines die early. It's just an accepted fact.
Yeah.
And that all men go to the mines when they turn 16, and the men die.
Yeah.
That's just it. And it's kind of like this harsh reality of the world. It's not safe because no one cares. They're expendable.
I think, as you said, it's not that far from what I could imagine America in particular going into at some point. I'm not saying they're going to start doing that, but they are very comfortable with their children dying and not doing anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise that most dystopian stories are set in an American setting. Because I feel like it's the most believable.
Yeah. The Handmaid's Tale as well.
Yes, basically being acted out in real life. Anyway. Have you seen Tangent? The Gen Alpha and Gen Z kids storming the Tennessee Capitol. I'm like, these kids are just getting it. It's making up for where millennials went wrong. I'm just like so impressed by these kids.
Yeah, well, I think obviously millennial is a very large. The youngest millennial was 26.
Yeah, and the oldest is like 40.
43, I think.
Yeah.
And they obviously have nothing in common with each other. But I think millennials, we were very much...
We're in that transition period.
And we were going through what at the time was told to us would be a once-in-a-lifetime thing of like...
Recession, huge terrorist attacks.
We were going through all this that we were just like... I think millennials have basically been in a state of trying to survive their whole lives. And I think that the generations below us are aware that they will have nothing to survive. Even if they survive, there's nothing for them.
Whereas we were kind of told, like, you can have the world, but now Gen Z have grown up knowing, like, that's bullshit.
There's no world.
You can be anything you want. You can have all these things. You can live this beautiful life. We've gotten older, and it's like, no, we're all working dead-end middle management jobs because the people above us
until we
all
die,
got fired.
We won't retire. We're going to work until we die. For people who need our help to turn on a computer and get paid thousands more than us and own homes and blah blah blah, and look down at us because we can't afford to do those things.
Because
even though they're the ones hoarding the wealth.
Because I buy a coffee every morning. They're like, well, that's the reason you can't own your own home.
So I've actually had that said to me.
Yeah.
You'd be able to pay off your car quicker if you didn't buy a coffee all the time.
And when did that become a luxury, buying your morning coffee? When did that become considered a luxury?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I should be able to have coffee every morning without being considered the reason I can't own a home.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That just Gen Z and Gen Alpha are just kind of very impressive guys. If we have younger listeners, find you all very impressive. Not just signing petitions. We're turning up. We're protesting.
The thing is that, especially in America, for some reason
The laws that are being passed, they don't represent the young people.
And for some reason, the people who make these laws don't care. Like, they're forcing... This is an American rant, I'm just going to go into it.
Yeah, sorry guys.
They're forcing people to have children to replace the workforce, but they don't care that the workforce that has already been born are being killed.
Yeah.
Make it make sense. And the whole point of the Constitution is that they can be amended. It's called
the whole point was like
amendments.
government was like the whole reason you have the whole reason behind we need to have the right to bear arms is just in case so the government, you could rise up against the government if you had to.
Yeah, so these kids are doing what they should be allowed
to
do.
But
it's
that's because the government's not supposed to have absolute control, and at the moment it's being absolute.
And when that was written, the weaponry was not as it is now. I'm sure they would never have envisioned a world where someone can buy a assault rifle and go and shoot people in the streets or whatever. You're not even allowed to use them to hunt with because it's disgusting to use on animals.
No, it's also they don't leave much of a body behind.
Exactly.
So for hunting purposes.
So why are people allowed to purchase?
Yeah, I don't know.
In what?
And like the school in the most recent one, the teachers were armed. There was security gates, the doors were locked. Like everything.
I love that
everything
the answer is just give more weapons.
Well, the teachers were armed.
But
you know, there's a state that's trying to pass open carry laws for children. And honestly, America. Both of us are very probably would say we're left leaning in politics. So, and we're British, and we have a very different relationship to guns. I'm trying to preface this.
But you're passionately taking books out of schools because they have gay characters and shutting down drag shows which are not sexual at all
because they harm children, but
things that are actually harming children, you're okay with
it. It's the leading cause of death of people under a certain age in America.
I mean, I know no politicians are listening to this, so
I'm assuming we already have a fairly left-leaning audience anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just
so Hunger Games feels real. Is where we're going with this.
Yeah, it feels like all these dystopian books. Sometimes it feels like we're just a step away from them.
I feel like there's a reason why there's a resurgence in dystopian at the minute. Like, I really feel like YA dystopian is having a big resurgence. I've picked up a few recent releases that are YA dystopian.
Well, like, I read a thing one time that was like, if you want to see about what issues are going to come up in the future, go back to the dystopian novels written like a few years before it. It's like 1984, George Orwell, like the whole thing of like the camera state. We do live in that world now.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a negative way. It's not like they're controlling art or some shit, but you know, with that kind of surveillance state, with the laws they're trying to pass to get you access to your personal devices, and like, but it's always like almost like a Black Mirror.
Yeah, I mean, the reason Black Mirror is so scary is because
all of those,
very
I'm like, that could happen.
Yeah, which is what he wrote it for, to be. So I'm doing it's not Hunger Games, but I'm doing a read along at the moment with a book called Finding Folkshore, and it's by Rachel Fattirotti. I'm going to read you the synopsis for it. I'm on day 5 of a 6-day read along, so I've got not much left. Fola Udawole is your average teen with a head for numbers, an eye for the camera, and a heart breaking over her brother Deji's cancer treatment. The last thing she needs is more on her plate, but when she is transported into Folkshore, a hidden part of London, she finds her plate runneth over. Trapped in this fairy tale land, Fola uncovers the local assembly's deceptive regeneration plans. Torn between escaping and joining the resistance, she must make a crucial choice. If she fails, the community she's come to love could be destroyed forever. So this came out on the 6th of this month.
Yeah.
And it is about gentrification in London. It's set in like a fantasy world, like a parallel fantasy London. And some of the residents are animals, anthropomorphic animals. I always struggle with that word. And the police are literally pigs. And
It's a bit Animal Farmy.
Yeah, and one of the issues is very high police violence, and it's like all of this is it's just representative of our current world, and that's just come out, like literally released this month.
Well, like the town where I live, all these new houses that are going up, all this gentrifying they're doing, like what they've done in the town centre, that is not for people from here.
No.
Those houses are not affordable for people from here. Those flats in the studio flat, one of them was going for $1,300, which is what my boyfriend pays to live in central London.
Yeah. I hate to think how much those luxury flats are going to be where the Ariel building. Because they're going to be aimed at commuters and people. Well, not even commuters actually anymore. It's going to be aimed at developers, people who are going to buy, or people that are going to buy up all the flats and then rent them out for ridiculous costs.
Those new estates being built where there was farmland and greenery.
Not anymore.
No. Yeah, we're living in dystopian times.
Yeah, that's where we're
getting. I think
probably
that's why Hunger Games is having its moment again as well.
Yeah. I mean, in particular in America, where Hunger Games is based, their government literally do allow their children to be killed. It may not be a reality show, but they're certainly not doing anything to stop it. That's
that whole tangent.
Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I haven't read this. I've avoided spoilers mostly.
I think I can tell you about it without spoiling it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me read the summary on Storygraph, and then I'll sort of tell you where there's the cool tie-ins to the original series that I don't think spoil any. So, ambition will fuel him, competition will drive him, but power has its price. It is the morning of the reaping that will kick off the 10th annual Hunger Games. In the capital, 18-year-old Coraline... Oh, it's Snow's first name. Coriolanus?
Oh, yeah. Coriolanus?
I'm going to go with Coriolanus Snow.
Because it says anus, isn't it?
Is preparing for his one shot at glory as a mentor in the Hunger Games. The once mighty House of Snow is falling on hard times, its fate hanging on the slender chance that Coriolanus will be able to outcharm, outwit and outmaneuver his fellow students to mentor the winning tribute. The odds are against him. He's been given the humiliating assignment of mentoring the female tribute from District 12, the lowest of the low. Their fates are now completely intertwined. Every choice Coriolanus makes could lead to the favour or failure, triumph or ruin inside the arena. It will be a fight to the death. Outside the arena, Coriolanus starts to feel for his doomed tribute and must weigh his need to follow the rules against his desire to survive no matter what it takes.
I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know anything about this book. I just know it was about him. I didn't know he was a mentor.
So, in the early Hunger Games, it wasn't former tributes who become mentors. It was students in the capital's academies.
Okay.
And it's almost part of their examinations, in his anyway. It's a way of earning prestige.
Okay.
Which it is for the tributes who end up being mentors in the Hunger Games as we know it.
Yeah. I guess to begin with, they wouldn't have had winners
enough
from each
tributes,
district,
but the games as we know them, you kind of discover over time was engineered by Snow, and you see him as a young guy seeing the flaws in the Hunger Games tribute system as it was then, and saying, like, this is going to cause another rebellion. Because you know in the Hunger Games where he's like, a little bit of hope is a lot, too much hope is dangerous. This is him figuring that out.
Okay.
As an 18-year-old. So obviously not in a position of power at this point. The Hunger Games as they are then are not good television, as in people in the capital feel disgusted and don't want to watch them. It's not proving the point it's supposed to prove.
They've not got like the pageantry.
No.
Right.
It is essentially they are taken on these trains where they are put in cages like animals, the kids. So they arrive skinny, undernourished, already sort of feral by the time they even get here. They've all been cramped together in cages, so they've already hurt each other by the time they've arrived.
Already,
yeah. Most of the girls have arrived having been raped and things like that. It's implied, it's not said. And then they're literally kept in cages until they're put into the games. And then the games are just a brutal match in an arena to the death.
And I guess that's not fun to watch.
No. They are locked in this arena. It's one arena that stays the same. Like, the obstacles change. Like, the landscape inside the arena gets changed. But it is just one arena that's set in the capital. And people are kind of forced to go sit there and watch.
Okay, yeah.
And this is the year they choose to get the students involved and get their ideas about the games. And it's Snow that starts suggesting that we make this a little bit more fun. So the betting is his idea to begin with, the betting on different tributes. That didn't start because everyone's like, it's a bit macabre, betting on children slaughtering each other. The tributes being able to win favour. So tributes being able to like win things that help them in the games. That's his idea. And that starts it already in this game as a student, where they're like taking a poll from students' ideas as a school project. As some of these things are his idea, and he catches notice of the person in charge. These ideas are really good. They're going to help us keep being an empire. And you see that start, but then at the same time, he sort of becomes friends with his tribute, and it really humanises her. And he doesn't want her to die in the end. So it's that kind of, you see that develop, and then after those games end, he goes to District 12. He gets stationed at District 12 with the army there. Because, again, he's kind of broken the capital's rules by the way he's done this, even though he's sort of caught the notice of someone high up. Yeah. But he gets stationed in District 12 with this girl who survives, and she's very anti-capital. Yeah. She's from like what's implied as like a band of gypsies that got trapped in District 12 when the districts were divided, and their people are all about music and song and dance, and the capital doesn't let them do it because District 12 is so out of the way and things aren't as strict back then, they aren't as controlled, so they're able to have dance halls where the soldiers go to watch, and she does dances. So like a lot of the songs Katniss sings, this girl sings. Okay. She invents them, or they're from her tribe of gypsy people. So like the Are You Coming to the Tree, she makes that up and sings it in the book. The song she sings, Rue, also by this girl. So these are all songs of like that inspired Snow and make him start to think like, oh, maybe the way we're doing things is wrong. And it kind of is not trying to give him a redemption arc.
That's why I was so iffy about the book.
It shows how he almost gets indoctrinated into following the capital's way of doing things and helping make the games what they are as we know them in Hunger Games. And it's all because like he gets kind of betrayed at one point, and then he makes some choices that are like, if he'd gone one way he didn't need to go down the path he did, but he makes a choice to go the other way. And it's also showing how this one person is kind of responsible for a lot of the world as we know it in Katniss's day. Like the way District 12 is obviously ran, and like the way that all the districts are run, he's behind a lot of that. And a lot of the way they're given like, you know, they're given like little stipends and little bits of hope, and they can bet on the games, like the districts can bet on the games, and it's mandatory viewing. Like basically the TVs didn't work in District 12. So he was like, you do know you've got this punishment where you're slaughtering kids, but once those kids get taken, these guys don't see that.
Like this just...
So they're not seeing the punishment. No. So he's the one that gets the TVs installed in every home. So they can see the games. It's very clever, and it doesn't give him a redemption arc because he's not redeemed by it. Because you see how he ends up being Snow, as you know him. You see almost his decline into evil. Because in the beginning, he's just like, because the capital suffered in the rebellion just as much as the districts did. So the capital, like most of them starved, a lot of them turned to cannibalism. His family lose all their wealth. So you see him as just a young, scared, poor, hungry, like 18-year-old who then kind of decides, rather than fix the system, he's going to fix it to help the capital, help his people, and help perpetuate. Yeah, it's really, really well done. Okay. There's probably more of this just war theory stuff.
Probably, yeah.
Because it's almost showing how he gets kind of indoctrinated into making it what it is. Making it the pageant, making people not so disgusted by watching children die. Because no one in the capital wants to watch it. Everyone's like really kind of like,
that's gross.
And anyone who enjoys the games, everyone's a bit like, oh,
something wrong with that person. Yeah, I mean, when I first heard about it sounds like a bit of a cash grab, but actually she doesn't bring out books for cash grabs, so she must have had a story to tell. I think for her to do it.
All the tie-ins into the Hunger Games, because the Mockingjays he hates them in this book. Because the girl ends up using the Mockingjays in his origin story. The Mockingjays are a part of that, Which he doesn't even... No one knows that. Because this is his personal story that no one never knows.
Yeah, no one knows.
Because the people
like,
involved in it don't survive. So he then goes on to this position of power in the capital, and no one knows this backstory of him, how he came to be here. And this girl in District 12 who he kind of was like humanised. And it's a lot of her songs that live on through Katniss. And it's the Mockingjays. The Mockingjays get used to take the piss out of him when he's just a soldier in District 12 and to like embarrass him.
So like, without meaning to, Katniss ended up being the combination of everything that he hates.
Because it's implied that the bit of the village where the gypsy people settled, it's implied that they are her ancestors.
Okay.
Like, it's heavily implied. Then all the songs that Katniss's dad taught her, that's not 75 years. So if this is 10 years in, and then Hunger Games are the 74th is when Katniss is, that's 64 years. So that would have been her dad's dad.
Yeah.
Was that generation.
And I think in the Hunger Games, it must have been the first book, you find out that her dad enjoys music and dancing and stuff, don't you?
And taught it all to Katniss.
Yeah.
So before her dad died, Katniss used to love to sing.
Yeah.
And knew all these songs that were like district songs because of him. And then she sings that song, you know when she sings to Rue?
Yeah.
The one about lay down in the willows.
That one
in the grass. That really sad one. Which ends up causing outrage in the capital. One of my plants just moved.
Yeah. It was like, hello.
The sun has moved. Yeah, so without meaning to, she does a lot. She's like, it's implied that she's related to this girl that he knew. And yeah, it's really, it doesn't feel like it's shoehorned in. There's all these tidbits in the main trilogy which were already there, which are either very cleverly drawn back in or were put there because she always had this prequel in mind. I don't know. I thought it was very good. I really liked it.
Yeah. Okay, you've kind of... I mean, obviously I will get round to it, but you've bumped it up a bit. I think I might want to read it before I see the film.
I think you should read it before you see the film.
Do you think I should read it before I reread The Hunger Games, or shall I read The Hunger Games and then that?
Read The Hunger Games and then read it.
Yeah.
Because there's you'll see so many
pick
things.
It up better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because you're not going to remember all these little things.
Yeah.
Like, even I can't remember, like, the stuff to do with the Mockingjays and, yeah.
I've been really enjoying all of the little Hunger Games videos people
the
put
clips
on
that people
TikTok,
are putting in, yeah.
I've been really enjoying that. And like the green screen ones of people being like me in the Hunger Games and just laying down and waiting to die and stuff.
There was one set of victors, and that's how they won. They disguised themselves and hid until everyone died.
Just like, I mean, yeah. No, I think I want to reread the books, obviously, and then I want to re-watch the films and just really...
Yeah, every now and again
I'm ready to get back into the world, I think.
Yeah, I really loved these books when I first read them.
Yeah. Did they come out at like the same sort of time as Twilight? In my head, that's like the same sort of time frame into both of them.
It was in this whole era of Twilight, Divergent, Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Like all of this.
Oh, it was all the fake love triangle stuff.
Yeah, Hunger Games is the reason Divergent tanked.
Oh, yeah. Because
they did such a good job with the dystopian fiction stuff. Yeah.
With the films, I thought it was very interesting how it mostly got whittled down to just like a love triangle that isn't actually there. Which
is what the Capitol did, and it's very much the media fulfilling its own prophecy. Like,
yeah. It had Hunger Games makeup palettes, Hunger Games Subway sandwich, Hunger Games, all of this that were all just... I don't think it was done to purposely
be
make
like
you
the
more
pageantry
aware.
of
No,
the Capitol.
I think it was just
good marketing.
The marketing just proving the book's point.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I wonder if the books had come out now, would the similar things have happened with the marketing?
I think people were over the whole love triangle thing. Like, I don't feel like I see that a lot.
I think people were over it from the moment it started.
Like, from Twilight onwards.
Yeah. Especially because it's not a triangle.
It's a corner.
It's only a triangle if they're all getting it on.
It's an arrow. It's just one girl.
There's not a triangle. Like when people say about Vampire Diaries love triangle, I'm like, come here, love triangle. 2 of them are brothers. It's not a Cassandra Clare novel. God. I would have loved to have seen what the marketing would have been like now. Gen Z and things like TikTok
imagine it
and
came out
stuff.
on TikTok, like it coming out on TikTok.
I think they would have done some really clever stuff with the pageantry, marketing wise.
Yeah, like with the capital and stuff. So you remember someone said about Paris Fashion Week, and they were like, "This is literally like being in the capital in Hunger Games."
Yeah.
And I was like, "It fucking is."
Yeah, and like all of the, I can't remember which designer it is in particular. But they keep putting their models in wrong shoes and they keep falling over as they're walking down, and that gives me capital vibes. Yeah. Okay, I think that was all we had to say on it, really. Yeah. Just a little what we like about it, and here's some thoughts.
Well, we've managed we're actually done to time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so we had apparently a lot to say.
Yeah, considering I didn't think I'd have much to say beyond my little script.
Apologies for the depressing dystopian chat right in the middle there.
Yeah, but you know, hashtag
vibe.
life.
It's just a vibe.
Just a vibe. We'll have to do, I'm trying to think, we'll have to do like a series of dystopian. We'll do this. This is episode 1 of Dystopian Chat, and we'll come back for another series in the future when we've both
You're
read
like
another
staring
one.
at my books.
Yeah,
I have so many of them.
The Divergent stuff.
The 100, which I've never read.
Oh yeah. We will come back and do another one at some point. This will be an ongoing series as and when.
We've said that before for certain things, and we never do it again.
As and when. I didn't say how like soon it would be.
But there you go. On topic, on trend.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Please like, follow, subscribe on our Instagram, TikTok, Facebook and LinkedIn if you use them. Come say hi after you've followed us. We like that. We like it when people say hi to us. You can find loads of details about us on our website, which is lazybookloverspodcast.wordpress.com. You can also send us some requests for episodes, or if you're an indie author or just a fan of indie authors, send us some books we should have on our radar and we can mention them in a future episode. Please, please, please rate us and download our episodes, especially if you can download it in the first week of it coming out. That really helps us in the algorithm and helps our, what's the word I'm looking for? Helps our reach, yes, engagement. Thank you. We would love that.
Yeah, help us out. Get us out there to find other book nerds. Basically. Yeah. This is just bookish chat, but you guys can't talk back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we want to hear from you in the comments on other places.
Yeah, come talk to us on Instagram and stuff.
Thank you. We will see you next week for another episode of something to do with books, probably.
We haven't planned that yet.
No. Okay,
Future us problem. Bye.